Folks, here's the truth most men never hear. Sexual attraction doesn't respond to effort, it responds to mental positioning. Most men walk into interactions trying to impress, explain, or prove they're worthy. They lean forward emotionally, give too much too soon, and then wonder why the spark fades or never ignites. She seems interested, then distant. Warm one moment, cold the next. And the man is left confused, chasing clarity instead of desire. Let's be real, my friend. Women don't become sexually attracted because of what you do. They respond to how you think, how you hold yourself, and how much control you have over your inner state. Attraction starts in the mind, long before it reaches the body. The problem is this: most men unknowingly signal need urgency and emotional hunger. Even when they say the right things, their energy gives them away, and women feel that instantly. In this video, I'm going to break down the mental strategy that quietly flips the dynamic. The shift that turns you from the man seeking approval into the man being evaluated. The approach rooted in Stoic discipline, emotional restraint, and psychological tension. This isn't about tricks or lines. It's about becoming mentally steady, hard to read, and impossible to rush. When you change that internal frame, her response changes without you forcing anything. Listen closely right now. Let's get into it. Number 1. Desire starts in the mind. Folks, most men think sexual attraction begins with looks, touch, or timing. That's wrong. Desire starts in the mind long before anything physical happens. A woman decides how she feels about you internally before her body ever responds. If you miss that, you end up trying to fix things at the surface, and surface fixes never last. Let's be real, my friend. When a woman feels pulled toward a man, it's because his presence creates a mental state she doesn't experience with most people. Calm, curiosity, safety mixed with tension. That combination lives in her head first. The body follows later. Here's a real example. Mark is 50. He meets Angela, 45, at a networking dinner in Chicago. Mark is well-dressed, confident on paper, but he keeps talking, explaining his career, filling every pause, trying to impress. Angela listens politely, but her attention drifts. Her body is there, but her mind has already checked out. Now contrast that with another situation. Daniel is 53. He meets Susan, 48, at a small wine bar in Napa. Daniel speaks less. He asks thoughtful questions and then lets silence sit. He doesn't rush to define anything. He stays relaxed, almost detached. Susan starts leaning in, not because Daniel did more, but because her mind is now engaged. She's thinking, feeling, wondering. That's the difference. Desire grows when her mind has space to explore you. When everything is explained, labeled, and confirmed too quickly, there's nothing left to feel. Mystery is not about hiding information. It's about not overfeeding certainty. Stoicism explains this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius taught that we disturb natural processes when we interfere too much. Attraction is natural. When you try to control it, you suffocate it. When you allow it, it grows. Let's be honest. Many men try to create desire by increasing effort. More messages, more compliments, more availability. What they're actually doing is removing tension, and tension is the engine of desire. Here's the psychological truth. The mind is stimulated by what is unresolved. When a woman feels slightly unsure how you feel, slightly curious about your thoughts, and safe enough to explore that curiosity, desire ignites internally. You didn't force it, you allowed it. Another example. Brian is 47. He reconnects with Lisa, 44, in San Diego. Brian listens more than he speaks. He reacts slowly. He doesn't chase follow-ups. Lisa finds herself replaying conversations later. Not because Brian was flashy, but because her mind didn't get closure. That open loop creates attraction. Men sabotage this by seeking reassurance. They want signs, labels, confirmation. The moment you ask for certainty, you collapse the mental space where desire lives. Epictetus taught that control over self is greater than control over others. When you master your impulse to rush, explain, or seek validation, you become mentally grounded. That grounding is felt immediately. Desire does not respond to need, it responds to composure. Ask yourself this, my friend. Are you trying to be chosen, or are you creating a mental environment where desire can grow naturally? If this resonates, write this in the comments. I stay composed. Stay with me. You don't want to miss this. The next part shows how shifting into the position of the chooser changes everything without you saying a word. Number 2. Become the man who chooses. Folks, sexual attraction shifts the moment you stop auditioning and start selecting. Most men walk into interactions hoping to be picked. That hope leaks through their tone, their pacing, their need to be understood. Women feel it immediately. Desire doesn't respond to hope. It responds to position. Let's be honest, my friend. The man who chooses moves differently. He doesn't rush to qualify himself. He observes. He listens. He decides whether the energy in front of him is worth his time. That internal decision changes everything, even if he never says a word. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's worth is measured by the quality of what he gives his attention to. When you treat attention as valuable, your presence gains weight. When you give it away freely, it loses power. Here's the core psychological shift. When you see yourself as the chooser, your nervous system settles. Your reactions slow. Your questions become selective. You're no longer scanning for approval. You're assessing alignment. That calm assessment is felt as authority, not dominance. Authority is attractive because it signals stability. Most men think choosing means rejecting. That's not it. Choosing means pacing. It means not investing emotionally before information arrives. It means allowing space to see how someone behaves over time. Women respond to this because it mirrors how attraction actually forms for them. Gradually, subtly, through observation. Epictetus warned against placing our sense of value in things outside our control. Approval is outside your control. Your standards are not. When you anchor yourself to standards instead of outcomes, you stop chasing reactions. You become consistent. Consistency is magnetic. Let's be real. The chooser doesn't ask, "Do you like me?" He asks internally, "Does this feel right?" That question changes how you sit, how you speak, how long you pause. You're not withholding, you're grounded. Grounded men don't need to explain themselves. This also creates psychological tension. When a woman can't immediately place you as eager or dependent, her mind engages. She begins to evaluate you instead of the other way around. That evaluation is where desire grows. Not because you're distant, but because you're not trying to close the loop too fast. Seneca wrote that he who is brave is free. Freedom here means emotional freedom. You're free from needing a specific outcome. That freedom shows up as patience. And patience reads as confidence. There's another layer most men miss. Choosing protects you from overinvestment. When you invest too early, you become predictable. Predictability kills tension. The chooser keeps some uncertainty alive, not by playing games, but by allowing time to do its work. If you're thinking this sounds cold, it's not. It's respectful. You're respecting yourself and the process. Attraction thrives when it's not rushed. Pressure collapses desire. Space lets it breathe. Ask yourself this, my friend. When you enter a conversation, are you trying to be selected, or are you calmly deciding if this deserves your energy? If this resonates, write this in the comments. I choose first. Stay with me. Don't go anywhere. The next part shows how psychological tension is created without saying anything seductive at all. Number 3. Sexual tension is psychological. Folks, this is where most men completely misunderstand attraction. They think sexual tension comes from flirting harder, touching sooner, or saying the right words at the right time. That's surface thinking. Real sexual tension is psychological. It lives in the space between certainty and curiosity. Let's be honest, my friend. Sexual tension has nothing to do with what you do physically, and everything to do with what you leave unresolved mentally. When her mind is engaged, her body follows. When her mind is settled, desire fades. Here's a real example. Chris is 51. He meets Amanda, 46, at a professional conference in Seattle. Chris doesn't flirt overtly. He doesn't compliment her appearance. He keeps the conversation grounded, focused, and calm. But he does something most men don't. He allows pauses. He doesn't rush to respond. He lets moments breathe. Amanda starts leaning in. She asks more questions. She becomes slightly more animated. Why? Because Chris hasn't closed the loop. His presence is steady, but his intentions are not spelled out. Her mind stays engaged, trying to read him. Now compare that to another man in the same setting. He jokes sexually. He compliments Amanda early. He makes his interest obvious. The tension disappears immediately. There's nothing left to wonder about. Another example. Thomas is 48. He reconnects with Natalie, 43, in Miami. Thomas listens closely, responds thoughtfully, and then changes topics just as conversations deepen, not abruptly, smoothly. Natalie later tells a friend she couldn't stop thinking about him, not because of anything he said, but because of how the moments felt unfinished. That's psychological tension. Let's be real. The mind craves completion. When you give full explanations, full reassurance, and full availability too soon, you rob attraction of its fuel. Sexual tension is created when there is clarity of presence but ambiguity of outcome. Stoicism explains this well. Marcus Aurelius warned against acting from impulse. Impulse seeks immediate resolution. Discipline allows tension to exist without discomfort. When you are comfortable inside uncertainty, you transmit strength. Here's where men sabotage themselves. They feel the tension and get anxious. They rush to label. They rush to escalate. They rush to confirm interest. That rush collapses the tension instantly. The moment you seek certainty, the spell breaks. Another real scenario. Kevin is 54. He meets Laura, 49, at a small dinner gathering in Phoenix. Laura opens up emotionally. Kevin doesn't jump in with reassurance or intimacy. He acknowledges, then pauses. Laura fills the space by sharing more. Kevin's restraint keeps the tension alive without pressure. Sexual tension grows when a woman feels safe but not consumed. When she feels seen but not claimed. When she senses interest without urgency. This is not manipulation. This is emotional maturity. You're not withholding to control. You're pacing because you respect the process. Epictetus taught that mastery over desire is greater than surrender to it. When you master your impulse to rush, her desire has room to expand. Here's the truth most men never hear. Sexual tension is not something you create. It's something you protect. You protect it by not killing it with impatience. Ask yourself this, my friend. Do you rush to resolve moments, or can you sit calmly inside them? If this resonates, write this in the comments. I hold tension. Stay with me. You don't want to miss this. The next part reveals why stopping the chase is what actually pulls her closer. Number 4. Stop chasing, start pulling. Folks, chasing is the fastest way to kill desire. Pulling is what creates it. And the difference between the two is not effort, it is mindset. Let's be honest, my friend. When a man chases, he is reacting. He is moving toward an outcome he wants to secure. That reaction leaks urgency. Urgency tells her nervous system that something is off. Desire does not grow around urgency. It shuts down. Pulling is different. Pulling happens when you stop trying to move her toward you and instead stabilize yourself. When your posture, tone, and emotional pace stay steady, she starts adjusting to you. That adjustment is attraction. Most men misunderstand this because they think pulling means being distant or cold. It does not. Pulling means you are present without pursuing, interested without reaching, open without leaning forward emotionally. Stoicism explains this clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should never allow our peace to depend on the actions of others. When your calm does not rise or fall based on her response, you stop chasing automatically. And that inner stillness creates gravity. Here is the psychological truth. People are drawn toward what feels complete. When you chase, you signal incompleteness. When you pull, you signal self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is magnetic. Epictetus taught that the man who seeks external approval gives away his freedom. Chasing approval in attraction does the same thing. The moment you need her response to feel settled, you lose the position that creates desire. Pulling works because it reverses the frame. Instead of asking, "Do you want me?" the interaction becomes, "How does this feel to you?" That subtle shift moves the evaluation back into her mind. And when she starts evaluating, desire begins forming. Let's be real. Pulling shows up in small behaviors. You do not rush replies. You do not explain intentions prematurely. You do not chase emotional reassurance. You let moments end naturally instead of stretching them. Ending moments cleanly is one of the strongest pulling behaviors there is. Seneca warned that impatience reveals weakness. In attraction, impatience shows up as over-availability. When you are always available, always responsive, always ready, there is nothing to move toward. Pulling creates space. Space creates motion. This is not about manipulation. It is about discipline. You are disciplining your impulse to pursue comfort and certainty. That discipline changes how you are perceived. Here is where most men fail. They stop chasing on the surface, but internally they are still leaning forward. Women feel that. Pulling only works when it is genuine, when you are truly okay, whether the moment continues or not. When that happens, something interesting occurs. Her questions increase. Her curiosity deepens. Her investment rises. Not because you asked for it, but because she feels the pull of your grounded presence. This is advanced territory. If you want to build this level of emotional control and stoic discipline consistently, the channel membership is where we train it properly. That is where we go deeper into mental positioning and attraction psychology without shortcuts. Ask yourself this, my friend. Are you moving toward her to feel settled, or are you settled enough that she moves toward you? If this resonates, write this in the comments. I stop chasing. Stay with me. You don't want to miss this. The next part reveals how mystery keeps desire alive long after words stop working. Number 5. Mystery keeps her wanting more. Folks, mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about not giving everything away before it's earned. When a woman feels like there is more to you than she can immediately grasp, her mind stays engaged. And when her mind stays engaged, desire keeps growing. Let's be real, my friend. Most men overshare. They explain their past, their plans, their intentions, and their feelings far too early. They think transparency builds attraction. What it actually builds is familiarity without tension. Familiarity kills curiosity. Curiosity is the engine of desire. Mystery works because the mind hates unfinished stories. When something feels unresolved, it loops, it replays, it wants to return. That's not manipulation, that's human psychology. Here's a real example. Kevin is 52. He meets Rachel, 46, at a small dinner gathering in Scottsdale. Kevin answers questions honestly but briefly. When Rachel asks about his work, he gives a simple answer and then shifts the conversation back to her perspective. He doesn't hide, He just doesn't unload. Rachel notices. Later that night, she finds herself wondering about him, not because he was evasive, but because he didn't try to be fully understood all at once. Now contrast that with another scenario. Same setting. Another man immediately dives into stories, struggles, accomplishments, and future plans. Everything is on the table. There's nothing left to discover. Rachel listens, but her curiosity fades quickly. Another example. Paul is 49. He reconnects with Monica, 44, in Santa Monica. Paul listens more than he speaks. When Monica asks what he's looking for, he answers calmly that he values good energy and seeing how things unfold. He doesn't define the relationship. He doesn't reassure. Monica laughs it off, but later brings the topic back herself. Mystery pulled her back in. Let's be honest. Mystery is not silence, it's selectivity. You choose what to reveal and when. You let depth emerge over time instead of forcing it up front. Stoicism supports this. Marcus Aurelius warned against acting from impulse. Oversharing is often impulse-driven. It comes from a desire to be known, validated, or secured. When you resist that impulse, you project self-possession. Self-possession is attractive. Here's where men sabotage mystery. They get uncomfortable with uncertainty. They want clarity. They want to know where they stand. So they ask. And the moment they ask, the mystery collapses. The tension disappears. Another real situation. David is 55. He meets Elaine, 48, at a museum event in Chicago. Elaine opens up emotionally. David doesn't rush to match depth. He acknowledges and stays grounded. Elaine later tells a friend she felt unusually drawn to him, not because he revealed more, but because he didn't rush to equalize vulnerability. Mystery also protects you. It prevents premature emotional investment. When you move slowly, you stay balanced. Balance allows attraction to grow without pressure. Let's be real, mystery doesn't mean playing games. It means respecting the process. You allow curiosity to do its work. Ask yourself this, my friend. Are you trying to be fully understood too soon, or are you allowing interest to build naturally? If this resonates, write this in the comments. I keep mystery. Stay with me. Don't go anywhere. The next part shows how controlling the emotional pace keeps desire from burning out too fast. Number 6. Control the emotional pace. Folks' attraction doesn't die because there's no interest. It dies because things move too fast emotionally. When the emotional pace is rushed, desire doesn't have time to root itself. It spikes, then collapses. That's why control matters here. Let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. Most men think momentum means escalation, more messages, deeper talks, faster emotional investment. They confuse speed with strength. But in psychology, speed often signals anxiety, and anxiety is felt immediately, even if it's never spoken. Stoicism teaches restraint for a reason. Epictetus said that freedom comes from governing your impulses. Emotional pacing is exactly that. When you don't rush connection, you show mastery over yourself. And self-mastery is one of the strongest signals of inner stability a man can project. Here's the key idea. Desire grows in space, not pressure. When emotions are allowed to breathe, they deepen naturally. When they're forced, they resist. Think about it. Anything pushed too hard pushes back. Many men sabotage attraction by trying to lock things down emotionally. They seek reassurance. They want labels. They want certainty. What they don't realize is that emotional certainty too early removes anticipation, and anticipation is where desire lives. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that nothing outside of our control should dictate our inner state. When you rush emotionally, you hand over control. You let outcomes dictate your behavior. When you slow the pace, you stay centered regardless of response. Controlling emotional pace doesn't mean being cold. It means being steady. You respond, but you don't overreact. You engage, but you don't chase. You allow interest to rise and fall naturally instead of trying to stabilize it artificially. This is where many men get uncomfortable. Silence feels risky. Space feels like loss. But that discomfort is internal. It's not reality. When you don't act from that discomfort, you communicate confidence without saying a word. There's also something deeper happening. When you slow the emotional tempo, you allow the other person to invest. Investment creates attachment, not the other way around. If you're always the one pushing emotional depth, you're carrying the entire weight of connection. That imbalance weakens attraction. Stoic philosophy is clear on this. Seneca warned against emotional dependency because it erodes dignity. Emotional pacing preserves dignity. It keeps you grounded. And grounded men are felt as safe, controlled, and attractive. Let's be real, my friend. You don't need to accelerate anything that's genuine. What's real doesn't require force. It unfolds on its own timeline. When you control the emotional pace, you also protect yourself. You stay observant instead of reactive. You notice patterns instead of projecting hopes. That clarity puts you in a position of quiet authority. Here's the shift to remember. You don't slow down to manipulate. You slow down because you don't need to rush. That difference is felt instantly. If this hit home, type this in the comments. I control my pace. Stay with me. You don't want to miss what comes next. Number 7. Calm authority triggers desire. Folks' attraction doesn't respond to volume or force. It responds to calm authority. When a man is steady in himself, grounded in his decisions, and unbothered by outcomes, that calm becomes magnetic, not loud, not flashy, felt. Let's be honest for a second, my friend. Most men think authority means dominance. It doesn't. Authority is quiet certainty. It's knowing where you stand without needing permission to stand there. And women sense that immediately. Here's why this matters. Calm authority signals safety and strength at the same time. It tells her you can lead without controlling, and you can hold tension without panicking. That combination triggers desire at a deep level. A real example. Michael is 48. He meets Laura, 45, through mutual friends in Austin. During conversations, Michael doesn't interrupt, doesn't rush to impress, and doesn't over-explain. When Laura challenges a point, he listens, considers, and calmly holds his position. No defensiveness, no need to win. Later, Laura admits she felt unexpectedly drawn to him, not because of what he said, but because of how steady he was when saying it. Another situation. Brian is 52. He reconnects with Denise, 47, after years apart. Denise tests him subtly. She cancels plans once. Brian responds calmly, says no problem, and continues living his life. He doesn't withdraw emotionally, and he doesn't chase reassurance. That balance shifts the dynamic. Denise begins reaching out more consistently. Calm authority reset the frame. Let's be real. Calm authority comes from inner discipline. Stoicism teaches this clearly. Epictetus reminded us that true power is control over our reactions. When you don't react emotionally, you lead the emotional tone of the interaction. Here's where men lose it. They mistake calm for passivity. Calm authority still sets boundaries. It still says no when needed. It still moves forward with intention. The difference is it doesn't seek validation for those choices. Another example. Jason is 55. He meets Karen, 49, at a charity event in San Diego. Karen tries to steer the evening plans. Jason listens, then calmly suggests an alternative and moves forward without hesitation. No debate, no apology. Karen follows. Later, she tells a friend she felt surprisingly turned on by how natural it felt to let him lead. Calm authority also removes pressure. When you're not emotionally reactive, she doesn't feel like she has to manage your feelings. That creates space for attraction instead of obligation. This is important, my friend. Sexual attraction often comes from contrast. Calm in a world of chaos, stillness in a sea of noise. When you embody that, you stand out without trying. Ask yourself this: do you try to be liked, or do you trust yourself enough to be respected first? Respect is the foundation desire builds on. I'll say this clearly: I'm here to help you wake up, not comfort you. Calm authority isn't a tactic, it's a standard you live by. If this hit home, drop this in the comments. I lead calmly. Stay with me. You don't want to miss what comes next. Number 8. Detachment makes you magnetic. Folks, this is where most men get it wrong. They think detachment means indifference. It doesn't. Detachment means you care without clinging. You engage without needing an outcome. And that inner position changes everything about how you're perceived. Let's be straight about this. Neediness repels. Not because wanting connection is weak, but because attachment reveals fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. Women don't respond sexually to fear. They respond to emotional steadiness. Detachment signals abundance of self. It tells her you enjoy connection, but you don't depend on it to feel complete. That's magnetic because it removes pressure. And pressure is the silent killer of desire. Stoicism explains this clearly. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events, but from our attachment to outcomes. When you detach from needing a specific response, you regain control of your inner state. That control is felt as calm confidence. Here's the paradox. The less you try to secure attraction, the more attraction grows. When you're not emotionally invested in forcing something to happen, you give space for desire to arise naturally. Desire needs freedom. Attachment suffocates it. Many men think detachment will make them seem cold or unavailable. In reality, it makes them feel safe and grounded. A woman can explore attraction without feeling responsible for your emotions. That freedom allows her to lean in instead of pull away. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man should stand firm like a rock, allowing waves to break against him without moving him. Emotional detachment is that rock. You're present, responsive, and engaged, but not shaken by shifts in energy. Let's be real, my friend. When a man is overly attached, every delay feels personal. Every pause feels like rejection. That emotional volatility leaks out in tone, timing, and behavior. Detachment eliminates that leak. Detachment also sharpens your perception. When you're not chasing an outcome, you observe more clearly. You notice patterns. You read signals without projecting hope onto them. That clarity prevents you from over-investing in situations that aren't aligned. There's another layer here. Detachment restores polarity. When you don't emotionally lean forward, you create space. And space creates tension. Tension is the psychological root of sexual attraction. Stoic philosophy never teaches withdrawal from life. It teaches engagement without enslavement. You show interest, but you don't abandon your center. You care, but you don't collapse inward if things don't go your way. This is why detachment feels rare. Most people live emotionally reactive lives. When you don't, you stand out immediately. Not by trying, but by being unmoved. Let me be clear. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to help you wake up. Detachment is not a trick. It's a discipline. And disciplined men are always more attractive than emotionally reactive ones. Here's the shift to internalize. You don't need to pull away to be desired. You need to stop gripping. If this resonates, write this in the comments. I let go calmly. Stay with me. You don't want to miss what comes next. Number 9. Let her chase the feeling. Folks, this is where everything you have learned so far starts to work together. Attraction does not grow because a woman chases you. It grows because she wants to feel what she feels around you again. Your job is not to make her chase you as a person. Your job is to let her chase the emotional state she associates with you. Let's be clear, my friend. When men try to be chased, they perform, they posture, they withhold in obvious ways. That kills authenticity. What actually works is much quieter. You create an emotional experience that feels different from the noise she lives in, then you step back and let her mind pull her toward it. Here's a real situation. Mark is 51. He meets Allison, 46, through a mutual fitness group in Denver. When they talk, Mark is present, grounded, and calm. He listens fully. He teases lightly. He doesn't rush conversations or extend them unnaturally. When the interaction ends, it ends cleanly. No emotional grabbing, no follow-up pressure. A day later, Allison realizes she felt unusually relaxed and energized around him. She reaches out, not because Mark chased, but because the feeling stayed with her. Another example. Steve is 47. He reconnects with Natalie, 43, at a small work-related event in Seattle. Steve keeps the interaction warm but contained. He shares a laugh, a moment of eye contact, then shifts focus back to the group. Natalie notices something missing. The interaction felt good but unfinished. That night she replays it. The next day she initiates contact. Let's be honest, people don't chase people. They chase emotions, nostalgia, excitement, safety, tension. When you understand this, you stop trying to pull attention and start allowing attraction to echo. Here's where most men mess this up. They feel momentum and immediately try to capitalize on it. They extend the moment too long. They text too soon. They seek reassurance that the connection mattered. In doing so, they collapse the very space that made the feeling powerful. Stoicism teaches us to act without attachment to reward. When you allow a good moment to end naturally, you show self-trust. That self-trust is felt as confidence. Confidence keeps the emotional memory clean and strong. Another real scenario. Daniel is 54. He meets Lisa, 48, at an art opening in Santa Fe. Their conversation flows easily. When the energy peaks, Daniel excuses himself calmly to greet another guest. Lisa watches him walk away, surprised by how much she wanted the conversation to continue. That desire was created because Daniel didn't cling to the peak. This is the principle. You let her experience you, then you let her miss you. Missing is not absence. Missing is contrast. Let's be real, my friend. If you stay too long, explain too much, or seek confirmation, you rob her of the chance to want. Desire needs room to move. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to wake you up. Letting her chase the feeling requires discipline. It means trusting that what you bring is enough. If this hit home, type this in the comments. I let her feel it. Stay with me. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Number 10. Master yourself, she follows. Folks, this is where everything finally locks into place. Not with a clever move, not with timing tricks, not with psychological pressure. Real attraction becomes consistent only when a man masters himself. Until that happens, everything else is unstable. Let's be real, my friend. Most men spend their lives trying to manage women instead of managing themselves. They watch reactions, chase signals, adjust behavior, and hope it leads somewhere. That mindset already puts them behind. The man who is sexually compelling does the opposite. He stabilizes his inner world first. Self-mastery means emotional discipline. You no longer let excitement pull you forward or uncertainty push you into overthinking. You don't rush moments. You don't cling to highs. You don't collapse when energy shifts. That steadiness is rare, and rarity creates gravity. Stoicism speaks directly to this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's strength is shown by what does not disturb him. When your mood, confidence, and direction are not controlled by attention or approval, you radiate authority without effort. Here's the hard truth. Desire does not follow effort. It follows structure. When your life has structure, your thoughts have structure. When your thoughts are structured, your emotions are regulated. And when your emotions are regulated, people feel safe leaning toward you. Most men think attraction is about becoming more interesting. It's not. It's about becoming more centered. A centered man does not chase connection. He allows it to approach him. Self-mastery shows in how you move. You don't explain yourself unnecessarily. You don't rush decisions. You don't over-invest before alignment is proven. You act with intention, not urgency. That calm decisiveness communicates leadership without saying a word. This is why detachment, pacing, mystery, and calm authority all stem from the same source: inner control. When you master yourself, these behaviors happen naturally. You don't perform them, you embody them. Let's be honest, this path isn't comforting. It requires letting go of fantasies. It forces you to accept that attraction cannot be negotiated or begged into existence. Stoicism doesn't promise ease. It promises clarity. When you are mastered internally, rejection loses its sting, not because you never care, but because your identity isn't tied to outcomes. And when rejection doesn't destabilize, your attraction increases. Emotional independence is deeply magnetic. Here's the reversal most men never experience. When you stop chasing validation, people begin offering it freely. When you stop proving yourself, you become someone worth proving yourself to. I'm not here to soothe you. I'm here to wake you up. Sexual attraction is not built by saying the right thing. It's built by becoming the kind of man whose presence carries weight. Master your impulses. Master your reactions. Master your attention. When you do, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, the dynamic shifts without force. You don't need to pull. You don't need to push. You don't need to convince. You simply stand grounded. And when a man is grounded in himself, others naturally move around him. That is the strategy. Folks, here's the takeaway. This video showed you that real sexual attraction doesn't start with words, moves, or tactics. It starts with self-control. When you master your emotions, your pace, and your inner discipline, attraction stops being something you chase. It becomes something that follows. Stoicism isn't about denying desire. It's about becoming the kind of man desire responds to naturally. If you want to go deeper and build this mindset step by step, consider joining the channel membership. That's where we work on real inner control, not surface-level tricks. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss the next lesson. Thanks for spending your time with me, my friend. I'll see you tomorrow.